All right, if you're revising for exams and need a clear, quick breakdown of the UK antenatal schedule, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to walk through the complete NICE guidelines for an uncomplicated pregnancy and really focus on what you need to know.
First things first, let's lock in the key numbers. For a first, uncomplicated pregnancy, and the term you'll see is nulliparous, NICE recommends a total of 10 antenatal appointments. But for any subsequent uncomplicated pregnancies, for someone who is parous, that number drops down to just 7 appointments. Remember that difference? 10 versus 7. It's a classic exam question, so get that locked in your memory. So here's our game plan. We'll start with a full schedule, then we're going to walk through each trimester, appointment by appointment, and finally, we'll hammer home those key differences that you absolutely need to remember.
Okay, let's kick things off with a bird's eye view of the entire 40-week journey. Now, this timeline is really useful because it shows you exactly how the NICE schedule is built. You've got your core set of appointments that everyone gets, and then you can see these extra ones slotted in specifically for first-time mothers. We'll keep coming back to this difference.
Let's start right at the beginning, the all-important first trimester. This is where all the foundational checks and screenings really get underway.
So the first major appointment is the booking visit. Now, ideally, this should happen before 10 weeks, and it's a huge one. Tons of information is gathered, and the screening process officially begins.
And this is where a whole battery of blood and urine tests are done. It's so important to connect the test to its purpose, right? We're checking for things like anemia, figuring out the blood group and rhesus status for later, and screening for a whole range of infectious diseases and inherited conditions like sickle cell and thalassemia. And to round out the first trimester, we have 2 really critical scans. The first is the dating scan, which does exactly what it says. It confirms how far along the pregnancy is and also checks if there's more than one baby. Then there's the combined screening test, which involves both a blood test and a special ultrasound measurement called the nuchal translucency scan to screen for chromosomal conditions.
Okay, moving into the second trimester. The focus now really starts to shift towards monitoring how the baby is developing and, of course, ongoing maternal well-being.
You've got 2 main appointments to think about here, a routine check-in around 16 weeks, and then the really detailed anomaly scan a bit later on.
So at that 16-week appointment, it's all about going over those initial blood results and maybe starting iron supplements if needed. Plus, the routine blood pressure and urine checks continue. Then, a few weeks later comes the big one, the anomaly scan. This is an incredibly detailed look at the baby's physical development, and it's also where they check where the placenta is sitting.
Okay, now this is a really key point for your exams, so listen up. The 25-week visit. This is the very first of those extra appointments, and it is only for women in their first pregnancy. And this is the appointment where we start measuring something called the symphysis fundal height, or SFH for short. It's basically a simple tape measurement from the pubic bone to the top of the womb, but it's a super important tool for tracking and plotting the baby's growth for the rest of the pregnancy.
The 28-week visit is a huge checkpoint for everybody. You've got the routine stuff, BP, urine, and that SFH measurement, but also repeat blood tests for anemia and antibodies, and critically, this is when rhesus-negative women get their first dose of anti-D. It's also when the conversations about preparing for labor really start to ramp up.
All right, we're on the home stretch now, the third trimester. Here, the focus shifts again, this time towards the baby's position and getting everything ready for birth. So, as we're getting really close to the due date, there's a specific physical check that becomes super important for planning the birth. What do you think that might be? You got it. It's all about checking the baby's presentation, which means finding out if they're head down or in a breech position. And if a breech position is suspected, an external cephalic version, or ECV, might be offered to try and gently turn the baby. Okay, so the final weeks are a flurry of check-ins. Notice again the extra visits for first-time mothers at 31 and 40 weeks. For everyone, though, key moments include that second dose of anti-D at 34 weeks, and later on, really important conversations about what happens if the pregnancy goes past the due date and the possibility of inducing labor. So to really hammer this home, let's look at the 2 schedules side by side. This is probably the most important takeaway for your revision. And this table just lays it out perfectly, doesn't it? You can clearly see the core appointments everyone has. And those 3 extra ones for a first-time or nulliparous mother are at 25,
31, and 40 weeks. And why? Well, it's mainly for closer monitoring of the baby's growth and general well-being in a first pregnancy.
But here's something that's maybe even more important than the schedule itself. It's the core principle from NICE. It's not just about ticking boxes. All of this care is about shared decision-making. The schedule is just a framework. The care inside it has to be personalized for each individual.
So, we've nailed the entire schedule for an uncomplicated pregnancy. But to really push your revision to the next level, I'll leave you with this thought. How does this whole pathway change when complications like gestational diabetes or preeclampsia pop up? Understanding that is your next step.